Hi all, welcome to chapter 7 of Unit 2nd, Python Functions. We have already discussed about what is a function. Function is nothing but named blocks of code that are designed to do specific job. So we have learned in our previous lesson that what is a function, what is the use of a function. Functions are a set of code which are used to perform specific task. So here too we have the same definition. What is a function? Functions are named blocks of code that are designed to do specific job. Now let us see what are the advantages of a function. So the main advantages are listed here. First one is that it avoids repetition of code. That is a very important advantage of function. Once we create a function, we need not write the same code again and again. So we can avoid the repetition of the code. At the same time, we can use the code in other programs also. So by that we can reuse it. Reusage of the code. So first one is avoids repetition. Second one reusability of code. And third one it provides better modularity for your application. It looks or it gives more clear clarity for the application. So these are the main advantages of a function. In Python, we can divide these functions into four: user-defined functions, built-in functions, lambda functions, and recursion functions. So these are the four types of functions which are available in Python. Now let us see a small description about those functions. First, let us see about user-defined function. User-defined functions are defined by the users. One who creates a Python program can create a function as well. Such a function which is created by a user is called user-defined functions. Second one is built-in functions. Functions which are inbuilt in Python. That is, along with the programming language, those functions which appears. Those functions are called built-in functions. Functions which are created along with the Python program is known as built-in functions. Third one, lambda function. Lambda functions are anonymous functions. We know the word meaning anonymous. Anonymous is nothing but unnamed function or unknown function. There will be no name for that function. Such functions are called as lambda function. Recursion function or recursive function. A function which calls itself is called a recursive or recursion function. So these are the four different types of function and their description in Python. So user-defined function is defined by the user. Built-in function is inbuilt in Python. Lambda function are anonymous or unnamed functions. And recursion function is a function which calls itself. Defining a function. What is defining? Defining is nothing but creating. So if you want to use a function, we should create it, or already it should be available. So function must be defined to create and use certain functionality. So if you want to create some particular purpose, or if you want to do some particular purpose with a function, that should be already created, defined. So when we are defining a function, some important things to be noted. When we are creating a function, those instructions should be followed clearly. First one is that function blocks begins with the keyword def, def, followed by the function name and parenthesis. It is very important to use the keyword def. And after the function name, there should be a parenthesis, symbol bracket. Second one, any input parameters or arguments should be placed within these parentheses when you define a function. So if you want to create or input any parameters or arguments, that should be within the parentheses. Third one, the code block always comes after a colon and is indented. So when we create a function name, the code block comes after the colon and is indented. Indenting is nothing but giving spaces. Fourth important point is that the statement return exists a function. So a return statement exists or ends a function. Normally, in order to end a function, we use the statement return. A return statement with no argument is the same as return none. So sometimes there may be a return value, or sometimes there may not be any return value in it. And fifth one, the very important thing is that Python keyword should not be used as function name. When we give a function name, that should not be a keyword of Python program. So these are the important points to be noted while defining a function. Syntax for user-defined function. So we have already seen that a user can create a function. So when we create a function in programming language, there should be a proper syntax. Syntax means a grammar, a particular format to be followed. So here you can see the format which is to be followed while a user defines a function. So we have to use the keyword def, then followed by after a space you have to give a function name, and within the parentheses you have to give the parameters of the arguments, and at the end there will be a colon. Only after the colon there will be some indenting. Indenting means a tab. Just press the tab key or press the space bar 4 times. That is indenting. So the block of statements is given after the indent. Then at the end, as we saw, return statement should be used. So this is a proper format for defining a function, or syntax for defining a function. Block. So previously we have seen that block of statements. So what is a block? A block is one or more lines of code grouped together so that they are treated as one big sequence of statements while execution. So when we write one or more lines of code, that particular set of code is known as block. So why we give it as a block is that when we execute a program, all the lines, sometimes if we have 2 lines or 3 lines or 5 lines in a block, all these 5 lines will be treated as a big sequence of statements and it will be executed together. So in Python, statements in a block are written with indentation. So already I told you what is indent. Then means just giving a 4 space or press the tab key. Usually a block begins when a line is indented. So when we press the tab key or when we press the spacebar 4 times, usually a block begins. And all the statements of the block should be at the same level. That is very important in Python. The indentation is one of the very important things that should be followed very clearly in Python programming. If we have some problem with the indenting, we will be having some error in the output. So the statements of a block should be indented in the same level. What is a nested block? A block within a block is called nested block. So that means when we have some set of statements, we have to add some other set of statements within that same function. So such blocks of statements is known as nested block. So when the first block statement is intended by a single tab space, the second block of statement is intended by double tab space. This is very important. That is, when we give nested blocks, the first block will be intended by a single space tab. But at the same time, when we have nested block, that means the additional block, that should be intended by double tab space. Okay, thank you students. Have a nice day. Stay home, stay safe.